Radiant team ban. Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Dire team ban. Radiant team ban. Dire team pick.
Bristleback!
Radiant team pick. Ten seconds remaining.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and tonight we are here to see a match between Team Buraiza and Team Akatsuki. And with the first phase of picks and bans, we see Team Buraiza picking a Bristleback and a Clockwork, and Team Akatsuki having a Warlock and a Slardar. From the ban side, we see Team Buraiza having banned the Axe, the Legion Commander, the Outworld Devourer, and the Lifestealer, while Team Akatsuki has banned the Abaddon, the Disruptor, the Keeper of the Light, and the Invoker. So yeah, I assume that Team Buraiza has a really strong pick right here, having a Bristleback and a Clockwork, both being strength heroes, and the answer to them being picked by Akatsuki in the form of a Timbersaw.
Seconds remaining. Reserve time.
Ursa Warrior.
And a pick being the Ursa for Team Buraiza and a Venomancer being picked up for Team Akatsuki. I do see that the damage potential for Team Akatsuki coming into play with the various amounts of dot damage being done by the Warlock and the Venomancer.
5 seconds remaining. Reserve time.
It seems as though Team Buraiza are thinking over what they want to pick, and they go for a Skywrath Mage. Not a hero which we usually see in the competitive scene, but
Dire team ban.
I guess that's a comfort pick for them. And a ban from Team Akatsuki being the Queen of Pain.
10 seconds
And we wait to see what is the last hero to be banned by Team
5
Buraiza.
seconds remaining. Reserve time.
Seems as though Team Buraiza are having a heated discussion as to who they need to ban. Seeing them take a long time means that they are afraid of one particular hero and they are debating over that. And a Razor being banned out by Team Buraiza. A Razor being a really strong hero this patch, being a counter for most damage dealers. So I assume that they pick someone who deals a lot of damage, and so as I speak they pick a Shadow Fiend, a really hard hitter. And Lina coming out from Team Akatsuki, and the lanes could possibly be predicted with the Shadow Fiend and the Lina going in the mid, and a Venomancer, I assume, being the core for Team Akatsuki, and the Bristleback and the Ursa being the cores for Team Buraiza, I assume. The Bristleback mostly being played in the offlane, I think. And good evening again, ladies and gentlemen. This is Old Bear, also known as Siddharth, and tonight I will be casting the game between Akatsuki and Team Buraiza. From the Radiant side is Akatsuki, where the Venomancer being played by Riha, the Lina being played by Ggnilar, I don't know how to pronounce that mage, and the Slaughter being played by Anti-Mage. A nice name, if I must say so myself. The Timbersaw being played by Chrysophylax, and the Warlock being played by Clairvoyant. On Team Buraiza, we have the Bristleback being played by Helm GA, the Ursa being played by Easy, the Shadow Fiend being played by Clown, the Clockwork being played by Venom, and the Skywrath Mage being played by Dino. And a pause comes out, and I guess we have to wait and see how it goes. And the game is resumed, and we see the Warlock venturing into the dire jungle with 2 observer wards and 1 sentry ward. He wards up the site, a really common observer ward site, so as to prevent ganks for the offlane, the Timbersaw I mean. It doesn't seem like either one of these teams is content with contesting for the runes, so I guess those are just going to be picked normally. And as we speak about that, the Bristleback seems to venture into the Radiant jungle, seemingly scout out what his opponents are, what his contest is.
30 seconds to battle.
And he places an observer to scout out the incoming ganks from the river and the deeper Radiant jungle. And in the top lane we have the Ursa and the Timbersaw having a little skirmish between themselves, I assume.
The battle begins.
Боже, ты посмотри вокруг, что происходит!
To see the contest in the mid lane, me being a player who plays in the mid a lot, I would assume that the Lina has the edge over the Shadow Fiend, last hitting with the Dragon Slave, but we do see the Clockwork coming in to help out the Shadow Fiend, and meanwhile in the top lane, it seems as though the Skywrath Mage would be enough to drive the Timbersaw out of his lane, in a while I guess. And a pause comes out from the Venomancer. And in the top lane, we see the Timbersaw getting really low, and the first blood goes to Easy on his Ursa. A really good start for Team Ryza. And down in the mid lane, we see the Shadow Fiend having 18 souls. That is a tad bit too fast. I assume that he did not get any... He didn't miss any last hits or denies. And meanwhile, in the bottom lane, it seems the Bristleback is being scared out of his lane with dot damage coming from the Venomancer and the constant harass from the Slaughter.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
It seems as though the Shadow Fiend might just get bullied out of his lane, seeing the Dragon Slave spam coming out of the Lina, who has secured most of the last hits. And just as I predicted, the Lina seems to have topped the last hits charts, and the Shadow Fiend soon to follow. And the Venomancer eats a GG branch, hoping that would sustain him into the lane. And a heal coming out from the Warlock, but it seems as though the Venomancer is going to get bullied out of the lane. The Quill Spray stacks being a bit too high for him. And meanwhile, in the top lane, it seems as though they want to go for the Timbersaw, but he misses the chains. That is quite surprising, and he would survive anyway, being a Timbersaw. And down in the bottom lane, it seems as though everything's going fine, but in the mid lane, the Shadow Fiend dies. A gank from the Slaughter, I assume, with a stun followed by another. It seems as though Team Ryza has been stacking the hard camp and pulling the creep waves, but it doesn't seem like the Timbersaw wants to allow them to take the experience for themselves. And the Clockwork has placed a ward in the Radiant Cliff. A little bit of a harass coming out from the Lina, driving the Shadow Fiend out of his lane, who is pretty low, but he does have the bottle incoming, just 300 gold away, and the Lina gets a region rune, a free ticket to stay in the lane just a while longer. And the Clockwork is spotted out by the Slaughter. It seems as though it's a it's mind games. It's a lot of mind games. A Crush, Slithering Crush coming out on the Clockwork, and a Timber Saw and the Slaughter chasing the Clockwork. A stun into a Timber Chain, dealing a lot of damage. I assume that the Clockwork is going to drop, but he is juking it out, and he goes down anyway. A good exchange for Team Akatsuki. And down in the bottom lane, it seems as though the Bristleback is not doing so bad himself, versus a Venomancer and a Warlock. But it does seem like the Ursa is tipping slightly ahead of the Venomancer, seeing as how he has 3 more last hits than... And the silence comes out into the Timbersaw, and the Ursa, the bear, just mauls on into the Timbersaw, and he goes down. A TP coming out into the mid lane, the Clockwork comes in. I assume that he is not going to do anything, seeing as he does not have enough levels to do that. He is only level 2. I think he's just going to stack for his Shadow Fiend. And I'm right. And down in the bottom lane, a Slitherine crushed onto the Bristleback, but that is a really tanky hero. I do not think that is a good idea for Team Akatsuki to go on the Bristleback, but it seems as though he has overextended his welcome. A Slithering Crush into the Fatal Bonds, and the Venomous Gale killing off the Bristleback, but he will not go down without taking one from Team Akatsuki, the Warlock going down. And the Light Strike array missing by a good margin, and it seems as though the Clockwork is going to escape unscathed out of that fight. A rotation coming down into the bottom lane by Team Buraiza, the Skywrath Mage, but he backs off, just placing a ward in the Radiant jungle. It seems as though the Ursa is pretty uncontested in his farm. And a pause coming out for the Timbersaw, for he has disconnected. But then I got a lot of pressure and it was uncomfortable as fuck. It seems as though the Lena has a good advantage over the Shadow Fiend, having completed her bottle and 2 null talismans inside of her inventory, while the Shadow Fiend has yet to complete his Ring of Aquila and has the bottle and boots. And the Timber Saw reconnects. It seems as though the fights are going a bit more passive than it was in the early game. The Venomancer having completed his Ring of Aquila and a magic wand, which is completely full because that's what you do against a bristleback. And a rotation coming out into the mid lane by Skywrath Mage and the Clockwork, and they are going to catch Delina unawares, silenced and raised, and she goes down. The Slaughter coming to help, but decides that that is a bad idea. And with that, the fight presumably ends.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
It seems as though the Timbersaw has had a really difficult start. He is struggling to finish his arcane boots since he was killed twice in the top lane. But to the contrary, it seems as though the Ursa has a lot of farm compared to the timestamp, which is right now. Pings being pinged out into the river, and the Invis rune, which is probably going to be contested by the Lena and the Clockwork, but they decide otherwise. And in the top lane, the stack's still going on. It seems as though the Timbersaw does not want to give up on that. A bunch of Fury Swipes comes out into the Timbersaw, but I assume that he has disconnected. That is a really sad day to play an online event. The Bristleback though, he has gone for a really peculiar item build, having built a Soul Ring over a Vanguard, which I would presume is what most Bristlebacks build. And he wants to go for the pipe first. I guess that is his answer to deal against the Venomancer's magical damage. And the Timbersaw reconnects, but he is in a really dire position. No puns intended.
Wow! Wow!
And he gets out. And a Slitherine Crush comes on onto the Ursa. And the dot damage coming out on him by the Warlock, and the fight ends with nobody taking any casualties.
Dire's middle tower is
Down in the bottom lane, it seems as though the Venomancer is getting pretty low, but he does not want to give up on this lane. The good amount of farm that he is getting against a Bristleback, he wants to keep it up. And down in the mid lane, it seems as though there is an invisibility rune on the Lena, who a Slitherine Crush into a Light Strike Array. I guess that is a really bad fight, but the Shadow Fiend manages to escape. The last auto attack does not come out from the Lena, and she goes ahead and hits the Skywrath Mage, but that is not going to do anything since they are going to escape. A Dragon Slave comes out and kills the Clockwork, and the Clockwork being the only casualty in that fight. A Slitherine Crush misses on the Ursa, and what a player, man, Anti-Mage.
Dire's
He just
structures are fortified.
runs around the tree and the Ursa just gives up on that kill.
Is under attack.
And there is a huge stack for the bristleback in the bottom ancient for the dire. And it seems as though he is attempting to take it out. If he does manage to take it out, I guess Team Buraiza would be in the lead when it comes to the net worth. And presumably so, I think he is going to take it out. And down in the top lane, the Timbersaw goes down again to the Ursa.
Dire's middle tower has fallen.
And the Bristleback completes his stack, and that, I guess, is the Vanguard. He decides to go for the Vanguard, switching out for it in favor against the pipe. It seems the Ursa is quite low, but he has a blink dagger and the silence comes on to the Timbersaw and he disconnects. This is a really tragic game.
Вау! Жил до конца, умер как герой.
It seems as though the Timbersaw has his fair share of connectivity issues, and I don't see him getting out of this situation. Even though that was a misfortunate disconnect, he is going to drop dead anyway. And the Timbersaw disconnects only to find himself between the Ursa and the Skywrath Mage. And he goes down, being mauled by the bear. That is a series of misfortunate events, but such is the world. The Bristleback showing some aggression down in the bottom lane, but all for naught, since he just settles down to hit the creeps instead. It seems as though the Shadow Fiend has shifted completely into the jungle, clearing out the stacks which were being made by Team Buraiza's supports. And presumably so, he is topping the network charts with 97 last hits and 19 denies. And the Slaughter goes down. Team Buraiza pick up another kill. And the Shadow Fiend has an invisibility rune. Will he decide to do something with this? I guess not. It seems as though both teams are pretty intent on fighting, but Team Buraiza strike there first and they get a kill on the Lina. The Ursa taking that kill. But meanwhile, it seems as though the Venomancer has completed his Hand of Midas. It seems as though he's gearing up for the late game. A missed Venomous Gale, which might have resulted on a kill on the Bristleback, but he missed, so that doesn't matter. A Slitherine Crush comes on onto the Bristleback. A few auto attacks, but I don't see the Bristleback going down. And in the mid lane, it seems as though people have abandoned the top lane, both Team Buraiza and Team Akatsuki. And they have settled to just fight in the mid and the bottom lane. The Shadow Fiend, having completed his Shadow Blade, is looking for a bunch of kills in the bottom lane, and even though he won't be accomplishing much, the team manages to kill the Venomancer. And another kill comes on onto the Slaughter, and Team Bryza coming out of the exchange with glorious colors. And I assume this is going to be a transition into the bottom lane's push, and the tier 1 likely going down right now.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack. Money to burn.
I guess Team Akatsuki are going to settle for an exchange, but that is unlikely because Team Bryza is TPing onto the top lane, seeming to thwart off the push which is initiated by Team Akatsuki. And the Shadow Fiend with his Shadow Blade is scouting out, and a Requiem of Souls comes on onto two heroes, a raise, and he starts hitting on the Venomancer. The Venomancer most likely going down, but not before he takes down the Shadow Fiend with his Poison Nova. And the Clockwork having caught out the Warlock, but ultimately the Warlock is going to turn around and hit on the Clockwork, and he's going to die. It seems as though Team Bryza wants to get Roshan, and they do. The Age is going to be picked up by the Ursa, I assume. He swaps out his Orb of Venom for that. And he goes back to farming. It seems as though as many fights do come, and even though heroes from both sides fall, it ultimately leads to Team Bryza coming out on top.
Is mine.
The Slaughter 1,000 gold away from his Blink Dagger. That is quite a long way, since he decides to not take that last hit on that range creep, which is pretty weird if I should say so myself. But he goes back into the jungle, using his Corrosive Haze to farm up the camps, which he could not before. And down in the top lane, we see 3 heroes from Team Akatsuki going on, trying to stop the push by Team Bryza, and the Light Strike Array connects on to the Bristleback, and he should go down, and he does. And the Ursa blinks in, molts on onto the Venomancer, but the Chakram slows down the Ursa, and he has to spend Enrage, but do mind that the Ursa has an Aegis, and the Shadow Fiend and all of Team Bryza are around to take that fight if they decide to. And the Shadow Fiend just goes back to farming while they decide this is not the right time to take that fight. And meanwhile, the Slaughter is getting pretty close to his blink. But not for too long, since the Clockwork does TP to the bottom room, bottom shrine, and a hook shot comes on off the cogs into the battery assault, and the Slaughter goes down. The Shadow Fiend not having to do anything over there, just letting his teammate get the kill. And up the top lane we see the Timbersaw going on the Bristleback, but the Bristleback is way too tanky for Team Akatsuki to handle right now. And the Ursa comes in. He decides to hit the wards instead. The Skywrath Mage coming in, slowing the Timbersaw, but I guess the fight is going to end with that. Both teams not intent on throwing their bodies at each other. And meanwhile, the Shadow Fiend is just stacking and farming all of the scamps, leading with 140 last hits compared to the 130 that Lina has. And the Slaughter is about 100 gold away from his blink. And the Venomancer has a Force Staff on top of his Midas, and The Venomous Gale comes on onto the Bristleback, but a hook onto the Venomancer and the Battery Assault into the Cogs. But it seems as though Team Akatsuki are going to turn around and get a kill on the Clockwork. And it seems like the Timbersaw is going to escape, but Corrosive Haze is on the Bristleback and the Shadow Fiend is coming in with his new items being the Ring of Facula and the Power Tricks being completed on him. It is peculiar to see that the Shadow Fiend would complete his Shadow Blade before his boots, but I guess it all ended up working out for him. It seems as though Team Burizza does not want to pressure the top tier 2, since Team Akatsuki does have their fair share of AoE to defend against that, and they decide to settle for a mid lane push. The Bristleback coming into the mid lane, and they want to take down the tier 1, but it seems as though they are backing off. They see better opportunities ahead, with the Ancient being stacked for Team Burizza in the bottom dire side. And the Bristleback is just going to take away all of those stacks with his quills. And the Slaughter has the money for his Blink Dagger, and he is going to the side shop to get that. And will he do anything right now? I guess not. He is just going to blink away, but a kill comes on onto the Warlock by the Ursa. A blink into Earth Stomp. Seems as though the Lena has gone for a Shadow Blade and a Force Staff, presumably building the Force Staff to counter the Clockwork, and the Timbersaw is going for a Pipe instead of a Bloodstone. The Venomancer has completed his Dragon Lance, and he is looking pretty fat, if I should say so myself. But not as fat as the Shadow Fiend, as he has almost completed his BKB, having cleared out the dire jungle. He uses his Shadow Blade and goes down onto the mid lane with a Requiem coming out on 4 people, but not amounting to much since. And the BKB is going to come out, and he is just going to walk away. And in the mid lane, it seems as though the Slaughter is safe for now, since he does manage to run away. The Golem is going to get killed by the bear. And it seems as though the Ursa has completed his Blink Dagger and his Aghanim Scepter, both of them being really strong items, which is going to allow him to fight, purging off a lot of the debuffs.
Under attack.
On the contrary, it seems as though Team Akatsuki are not that good in their item fronts. The Warlock only having his Arcane Boots. He is building a cloak. Everybody is building a cloak in this game, since they do have... I don't see the point of getting a lot of cloaks, but Battery Assault into Cogs going on the Venomancer, and he might not go down. I don't think he is, but the Ursa molds on to the Venomancer and decides to make the Caster's Curse come true, since nothing I say is working and everything I don't say is. A Slithering Crush onto 2 and Fatal Bounce. That is going to stop the push for now. But 2 going down on Team Akatsuki and 2 going down on Team Buraiza. A fairly even trade, but a slight edge for Team Buraiza since the cores are still alive. A Shadow Blade onto the Shadow Fiend, a Light Strike Array being failed by the Lina, and the Shadow Fiend just decides to do nothing. And he goes on the Lina and he decides to make all my words just meaningless, since he does whatever I say in a really unexpected manner.
Вау! Боже, ты посмотри вокруг, что происходит!
Don't mind if I do.
And a Glimmer Cake coming out for the Warlock, and the Venomancer seemingly building a Solar Crest after this. And Roche, the second Roche being attempted by Team Buraiza, and they're going to get that with the cheese. The cheese being put on the Shadow Fiend while the Aegis is being put on the Ursa. So these are 3 really tanky heroes who can fill up their HPs immediately, and they are leading the front onto the push down the mid tier 2.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
And it seems as though Team Akatsuki don't have a choice to do anything against this. They are being badly zoned out by the Bristleback, but they do have that Venomancer if they do decide to take a fight. And Team Buraiza venture out into the top Radiant jungle and seemingly want the top tier 2 also. And it seems as though Akatsuki are not going to give that up so easily. A Chakram comes in, but being zoned out by the Bristleback again.
Radiant's top tower
It seems as though Akatsuki do not want to contest this fight, maybe being afraid that they will lose. And a push comes on to the tier 3 down in the top lane. A blink onto the Venomancer, which is not going to be acted upon since they're all fatally bonded and they decide to get back. Retreat and regroup. A Shadow Blade onto the Shadow Fiend, and he does scout out the heroes for Team Akatsuki, but they do place a sentry, so he is aware of all of that. So he decides to go back to farming. The Ursa TP's back, seeing the fat creep wave down in the bottom lane, which he cannot resist. And it seems as though the Bristleback is going to stick around in the Radiant side, since he apparently thinks that he is unkillable. The Shadow Blade on the Lina, I do not think that she can do anything against their Bristleback as of now. Not unless she builds a Silver Edge, which she is really close to. A Light Strike Array comes, but it fails. The Timbersaw going on the Clockwork, but the Clockwork escapes using his Force Staff. The Bristleback has completed his Lotus Orb. The Lotus Orb, which I do not think is for reflecting, but more for purging out the disabilities which are going to be made by the Slaughterer and the Venomancer. It seems as though Team Buraiza are riling up and gearing to push the bottom tier 2, and they go forward. And it seems as though, yet again, Team Akatsuki do not want to contest this. This is not how you're going to win the game, but I assume the Team Akatsuki do have a strategy in their pocket to fight against this, since a Venomancer lineup is usually really strong in defending high ground. And we see a push onto the tier 3 coming up. The Shadow Fiend hitting on the tier 3, and a pause comes out from Team Akatsuki. And the Slitherine Crush comes onto the Ursa. The Light Strike Array hitting the Bristleback. And the Corrosive Haze. That is going to kill the Bristleback. Pretty paper he is against a Silver Edge being finished on the Lina. The Shadow Fiend is invisible and uses his Requiem of Souls, and it hits 3 heroes. A rock coming out from the Warlock. It hits on 2, but I don't see the follow-up. But the Ursa is likely to go down, but he does have the Aegis.
Tower is under attack.
And he just blinks out. And it seems as though Team Buraiza are going to call this quits and retreat, since they have achieved what they wanted. They have taken the tier 2s. And the Mist Slitherine crushed onto the Clockwork, which is not going to matter because Lina is just going to use her Laguna Blade and Dragon Slave to secure that kill. And a Diffusal Blade comes out onto the Ursa. The Skywrath Mage is pretty poor, but comparatively he has an Urn and 2 Bracers, making him a really strong and really tanky Skywrath Mage compared to the rest. And the Slardar venturing out into unknown territory. Hopefully the Team Buraiza does not have a lot of wards inside of their own jungle. They have decided to spend it wisely on the opponent's jungle to scout out their heroes. And the Shadow Fiend, invisible, goes on and sees 3 of Akatsuki's heroes, and he walks right under a sentry, and the Glimmer Cape is going to save the Warlock, and a fight breaks out under the tier 2, which was taken down, and 4 hits, and the Timbersaw goes down. The Lina is also going to go down, and it seems as though the Shadow Fiend had to spend his BKB to fight that. And in this lane we see the Bristleback getting really low. He does have the Corrosive Haze on him, but it seems as though Team Akatsuki can't do anything about it since they are all so far spread out. Slardar TP's back to his base, and it seems as though Team Buraiza want to gear up for the tier 3 push, but there is the Wall of Pain being done by the Venomancer, and they've all been fatally bonded. I would assume that if he does use his ultimate right now, that would result in a good fight for Team Akatsuki, but he chooses not to.
Radiant structures are
And upheaval coming out from the Warlock into Slitherine Crush, and a Timbersaw going on the Shadow Fiend, but he turns around and eats the cheese. The Poison Nova being a fluke, it just hits on to the Shadow Fiend and the Bristleback. But it seems as though Team Buraiza decide to turn around and fight, and they kill the Slardar. And the Venomancer wants to go ahead, and the Light Strike Array connects on to the Clockwork, and he goes down. The Bristleback also going down. The Lina and the Venomancer seemingly wanting to go take that fight, but the Shadow Fiend and the Ursa turn around and maul on Team Akatsuki, bringing both the Lina and the Venomancer down. It seems as though the Warlock will have to defend the tier 3 all out on his own. But worry not, since the Timbersaw has respawned and Team Buraiza have decided to get back and regroup, having finished a lot of their items with Butterfly coming out for the Shadow Fiend, and it seems as though the heroes on Team Buraiza are far well farmed compared to those of Team Akatsuki, with the exceptions being the Lina having a Silver Edge and the Venomancer having a Dragon, a Hurricane Pike and a Medallion, which is soon to be a Solar Crest, I presume, since he does have the money to buy that.
We serve the same purpose all.
It seems as though Team Akatsuki is not going to figure out the 2 wards which have been placed by Team Buraiza. instead opting for the usual ward sites, which may not help them in this case. The Lina, using her Silver Edge, goes far out into her own jungle, which I still think is a really bad idea since 3 heroes from Team Bryza are still around. And the Shadow Fiend is just playing his own game. Having completed his butterfly, is pushing down on the top lane. It seems as though the Clockwork and the Skywrath Mage do spot out the Lina, and they do want to go for him. The Clockwork does have a detection and a blade mail to boot.
Regeneration.
And the Slaughter spots out the Ursa and the Light Strike Array coming out, but the silence on to the Slaughter is going to result in his miserable death. The Lina is trying to escape with her being dusted, and her Silver Edge is on cooldown, but she is dusted, so she decides to not use her Shadow Blade and thus ends up going down. And with that, 2 heroes on Team Akatsuki are dead, and this is a ripe opportunity for Team Bryza to make their push. The Shadow Fiend and the Bristleback pressurizing the mid lane. The Bristleback is really tanky, but compared to the amount of damage that the Venomancer deals, he is dropping pretty low. But he does use up his Lotus Orb to get rid of all the debuffs from the Venomancer. And I guess they are going to do a little bit of a split push down in the bottom lane and the mid lane. The Ursa Warrior has the BKB being queued up in his next item. And the Slitherine Crush comes on onto 2, the Rock being dropped and Fatal Bonds into Chakram, the Requiem of Souls being dropped, and it only hits the Venomancer, but they do fight under the shrine, and it seems as though the heroes from Team Bryza are getting awfully low. But a Slitherine Crush comes on onto 3 and a Poison Nova into the Venomous Gale. I think that is going to result in 3 kills for Team Akatsuki. And a Slitherine Crush comes on onto the Bristleback, a Laguna Blade comes on onto the Skywrath Mage, and he goes down, and it's a triple kill for the Lina as he successfully defends against the really tanky lineup of Team Bryza.
Dire's top tower is under attack. Dire's structures are fortified. Dire's top tower.
A smoke coming out for Team Akatsuki as they venture out into the Dire side, seemingly trying to scout out where the Ursa is, but the Ursa is in the top Dire jungle, and it does not seem like Akatsuki will be able to get a lot of, as they botched both the Slitherine Crush and Light Strike Array. A hook onto the Timber Saw into the Battery Assault is going to pressure the Timber Saw into going away, and the Clockwork just walks back to base.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
The Ursa has completed his BKB. The Shadow Fiend has a Manta style. I guess he is gearing up for that long game where he intends to use his illusions to push the lanes. And it seems as though Team Bryza and Team Akatsuki want to contest Roshan, and the Skywrath Mage goes down. A Laguna Blade into a bunch of blast auto attacks is going to bring him down. The Venomous Gale and the Poison Nova being used on the BKB Ursa. The Light Striker Ray is going to connect on the Bristleback, but the Bristleback is just going to turn around and maul on the Venomancer. And the rock being dropped on the Shadow Fiend. A hook coming out, which is sadly going to be deflected by the Bristleback. And it seems as though both teams are getting really low. But the Ursa is going to go down, and so is... But it seems as though Team Buraiza are going to turn around, getting 2 kills on the Shadow Fiend and 3. It seems as though the Fatal Bonds were being reflected back from the Lotus Orb usage from the Bristleback. A brilliant play, if I should say so myself. Winning them the game and winning them a Roshan. And the Shadow Fiend picks up the Aegis and the Bristleback picks up the Cheese. And they venture out down the mid lane, hoping to take some objectives. Playing the objective gaming people. And the Venomancer buys back, but I do not think that he would be able to do much on his own. But it does seem like his team is going to respawn with him. And the barracks are going to be melted down by the Shadow Fiend and his Manta style illusions. And that is one set of racks. And it seems as though they don't want to stop with that and they want to go to the bottom lane. But a Slithering Crush comes on onto the Bristleback, but he uses his cheese and replenishes his HP. The Shadow Fiend being disarmed, he BKBs and uses his Raccoon of Souls, which is absolutely going to hit nothing. A Slithering Crush comes on onto the Shadow Fiend, the Chakram slowing the Shadow Fiend down, and so does the Venomous Gale and the Corrosive Haze. I guess the Shadow Fiend is going to fall on, but he does have the Aegis, but the Bristleback does not have the cheese. And the Light Striker Ray comes on onto the Shadow Fiend and he is going to go down. The Bristleback is going to run for dear life, but he is being fatally bonded with both the Skywrath Mage. It seems as though Team Akatsuki are holding their ground against Team Buraiza. The Skywrath Mage is hiding in the bottom tree line and this crush comes on onto the Bristleback, but it is going to fail. The Bristleback is just going to turn around. The Lina does have her Silver Edge, and if one hit is going to break that passive of that, they might go for a kill, but the Light Striker Ray misses and the Bristleback is going to be safe. And with that, Team Akatsuki is just going to back down and farm up, since they have held out persistently against Team Buraiza. It seems as though the Skywrath Mage has permanently camped in the bottom tree line. But he is going to decide to move away from that cozy place. But nevertheless, it seems as though Team Buraiza is still on the lead, since they do have 2 barracks compared to all the tier 2s being alive for Team Buraiza. And the Slaughter goes for a Sanj, a Heaven's Halberd I presume, since he has the queued up. The Warlock not having any other item in his list. The Venomancer has 2.8k gold with him, but he does not seem to be going for any other item either. He does have a Heaven's Halberd. The Timbersaw has a blade mail and a Pipe of Insight. The Lina though, she has gone for a Crystallis, which is kind of weird. You would opt a Lina to go for Orchid instead, but well, whatever rocks his boat, man. And it seems as though Team Buraiza do not want to let up on the advantage that they have. They go on a warding spree. They ward the Radiant jungle, hoping to pick off any other hero who might venture out onto their traps. And in the top lane, the Ursa is being gone on by the Lina and the Slaughter. The Corrosive Haze into the machine gun that is the Lina. She is just going to hit away and kill the Ursa. But it seems as though Team Buraiza are going to take the bottom shrine. And they move forward. But they do have the Ursa still dead. He has buyback, but I do not think a situation might arise where he might have to use that. And it seems as though we are gearing up for a really long game, people. The Clockwork spots out the Venomancer and he wants to go for a hook, and he hits the hook onto the cogs and the battery assault. That is going to keep the Venomancer and the Timbersaw controlled, but the Timbersaw is just going to use his blade mail and survive the fight. The BKB comes out on the Shadow Fiend and he hits onto the Venomancer, but a Glimmer Cape at the right moment saves him. But I don't think he's going to survive this since... Okay, maybe he is going to survive this. The Venomous Gale slowing down the Bristleback to unimaginable extents, and the Shadow Fiend is backing down since he is getting really low. It seems as though Team Akatsuki hold still. It seems as though Team Buraisa want to wait for the next Roshan, so they might be able to get that last lane of barracks and secure the mega creeps for themselves. And back to a boring old game of Dota, where you hit creeps and make life hell for them. The Ursa having the heart next up on his list. The Venomancer has not proceeded a lot with his items, but he is holding out still, even with those major items. The Warlock has a gem, the Slardar has a Heaven's Halberd and a Force Staff, and he is given the gem. The Skywrath Mage does not have much. He has gone for the Rod of Atos, and it seems as though no fight is going to break down anytime soon, since both of them are content hitting creeps and gearing up for the late game, waiting for the Roche to respawn. And in the mid lane we see the Slardar eyeing out on the Shadow Fiend. I don't presume he is going to go. He uses the Corrosive Haze on the Shadow Fiend, and the Shadow Fiend is going to back out. Down in the bottom lane, a Rod of Atos comes on to the Timbersaw. A hook into Battery Assault is not going to help him, since he is just going to Timbersaw away. The Slardar whiffs his Slithering Crush as Shadowblade, a Silver Edged Lina, is going to try to hit the Skywrath Mage, but she is going to back down since she does not see that as a good opportunity to go for kills. And meanwhile, in the top lane, the Shadow Fiend and Ursa are pushing that out. And the Roche is probably going to respawn in a minute or two. The Shadow Fiend and the Ursa putting a lot of pressure down on the top lane. And it seems as though the fight is going to happen somewhere around here. The Lina having been detected by the Bristleback, who has a gem as of now, the Rod of Atos on the Lina, and yet she escapes, and she does have a bunch of Force Staffs on her team, a reliable amount of movements to get her out of any sticky situation possible. And it seems as though my prediction might be true. They are waiting for the next Roshan. But it is going to be a few more minutes until that is going to respawn, and the Bristleback is still pressuring down the top lane. And it seems as though every hero from Team Buraisa are in the Radiant side, except for the Shadow Fiend, who still wants to hit the creeps. He does have a Satanic up his quick buy, so yeah, I guess he is going to wait until he finishes that item. And the Roche is back up, and they start hitting on that, and that is going to be a really quick Roche. And with this, I don't see Team Akatsuki being able to contest this, since I don't think they're aware of it in the first place. And the Age is being picked up by the Shadow Fiend, and the Cheese being picked up by the Ursa, which is quite opposite to what happened the last time. And they gear up for a push in the top lane. The lane's being pushed by the Skywrath Mage and the Bristleback heading the push. Him being too far off from his own team. That just shows how much confidence he has, knowing that he will not die. And Team Akatsuki do gear up for a long drawn out fight. A break comes on onto the Bristleback, but that is a waste since he is going to escape. And Team Ryza have geared up, but you should note that the BKBs are too low. The Shadow Fiend uses his Manta style and starts pounding onto the tower. The Heaven's Halberd being used on the Shadow Fiend, but that is not going to matter since he is going to get the tower. He uses his BKB and Rakumo Souls, which is absolutely going to hit nothing. And a Slitherine Crush comes on to the Bristleback, and he is going to go down. The gem being dropped on the ground. The Shadow Fiend is also going to go down, and Team Akatsuki seems like they are holding this, but the Ursa walks in and kills the Lina, but what else can he do? He is going to die. He uses his Cheese and a Ghost Scepter, but it won't matter since the poor bear, is going to be kited around by the heroes of Team Akatsuki, and the only survivor from Team Ryza is going to be the Clockwork and the Skywrath Mage himself. And Team Akatsuki still hold. An Ethereal Blade coming out for the Venomancer, a really good item since it does amplify the amount of magic damage he deals. The Timbersaw having completed his Aghanim Scepter before his Bloodstone, which I do appreciate because he is dying a lot in this game and a Bloodstone is not going to help much. But he has opted for the Aghanim Scepter, but I do not think he is going to get enough mana to cast all of his spells during a team fight. And a push comes on onto the mid lane by the Venomancer and the Warlock. The Clockwork being spotted out and being gone by the Venomancer. Cogs are gonna come, and the Venomous Gale, which is going to be whiffed by the Venomancer. Clockwork seemingly gets out of that situation unscathed. And a push onto the tier 2 for Team Ryza, and it is presumably going to go down. It seems as though that is an exchange which Team Ryza are really comfortable with, since they do have 2 barracks, with only 1 barracks remaining for Team Akatsuki compared to so many buildings for Team Ryza themselves. And a hook comes on to the Venomancer, a cog into Battery Assault, but that is not going to do much since he does have his Hurricane Pike and he escapes. A Venomous Gale comes on to the Clockwork, but a Blade Mail comes on, and the Venomancer uses his Poison Nova, but he is ultimately going to tick down to the Skywrath Mage. The Bristleback is going to head the front during the fight, but he is being kited out, but the Ursa jumps in and kills off the Slaughter. The Venomancer having to buy back right now, and yeah, it seems as though Team Ryza want to take this fight in a really long manner. They are going to use the Shrine, and there is a double damage, which I presume they are going to give the Shadow Fiend so he can take the remaining barracks in the top lane. And down in the mid lane, a smoke is being broke by the Shadow Fiend, who is invisible, who also has the double damage. And a fight breaks out in the mid lane. A rock being dropped on 4 heroes, stunning them all, but that is not going to matter much since the Shadow Fiend is just going to hit Timbersaw, and the Timbersaw goes down. The Bristleback is heading the team fight, and he is dealing a lot of damage, but the break comes out and the Bristleback falls down, just like paper. The Shadow Fiend, though, sneaky peeky, he is invisible and he decides to go for the lone barracks, and he is going to get that, and that is mega creeps for Team Ryza. The Shadow Fiend turns around and decides there's nothing else to do, so he just throws himself to the Lina, who manages to get that kill. But what can be done? Mega Creeps are there. Maybe Team Akatsuki can defend against this, and the Corrosive Haze comes onto the Clockwork, but he does activate his Blade Mail. A Light Strike Array coming on, but he does activate his Blade Mail, so Belina is getting dangerously low. The Clockwork is just going to try to run away from the Slaughter. A hook comes out, and a hook and a cog, which is going to zone out the Slaughter, and what a player. Venom is absolutely showing all of his skills in this game. Even though everyone in Team Buraiza is dead except for the Clockwork, Mega Creeps are knocking on Akatsuki's door. It is only a matter of time until they decide what they want to do, whether they want to throw in the towel or they want to endure for the long game. The Ursa, having completed his heart, is really tanky and is probably the #1 hero in Team Buraiza's side, who is tanking up and soaking up all of their damage, compared to the Bristleback, who is supposed to be tanky, but he is dying a lot since the Lina does have her Silver Edge. The Skyrat Mage, having completed his Aghanim Scepter, that is not an item which I have seen on many Skyrat Mage, but well, there's a first time for everything. It seems as though Team Buraiza just want to slowly whittle down on the willpower which Akatsuki has with the Mega Creeps knocking on their doors. It doesn't seem like Team Buraiza want to do anything too reckless, which might cost them the game. But it is impressive that Team Akatsuki is holding a really long time against Team Buraiza. Seems as though the Shadow Fiend might complete his Satanic in the coming fight. I just don't know which item he's going to sacrifice for that. I presume that is going to be the Shadow Blade, but who knows, I can always be wrong. Skyrat Mage tries to go on the Timber Saw, and a hook comes out and the cogs into the Mystic Flare, but the Timber Saw is just going to use himself and he is going to survive that, seemingly unscathed. It doesn't seem like Team Buraiza want to initiate any fight at all. They want to sit here and farm all day. They want to ensure that their victory is certain, and that might not be the best of ideas, since the potential for growth for a team which has a Timber Saw is really immense. And he still has not completed his Bloodstone, mind you.
Gold and sweet.
It seems like the game has gone to a really stale stage where nobody wants to initiate a fight and they just want to hit the creeps. It seems as though Team Buraiza are waiting for their Roshan. Over this game, it seems as though they have used, and Rod of Ados comes on to the Timber Saw, a Yules, a BKB into a Requiem of Souls, and he is going to go down. The Slaughter is awfully close in a really dangerous position. Slitherine Crush comes on to the Shadow Fiend. A Light Strike Ray is going to hold him off, and the rock being dropped and the Shadow Fiend goes down. An Ethereal Blade being used on the Bristleback, the Poison Nova, and the Blade Mail. The battle of the Blade Mails between the Venomancer and Venom, and both of them end up killing each other. But the Ursa is really strong, and it seems as though the tier 4s are going to go down to the siege by the Mega Creeps, and Team Akatsuki are really trying hard to defend this, but I do not see them defending this. But they hold out until the end. Another rock being dropped, but the Radiant Ancient goes down, and Team Buraiza with a victory over Team Akatsuki in a really convincing manner with 52 kills and 36 on Team Akatsuki.
Terrorists win. Bomb has been planted. Terrorists win. Terrorists win. Bomb has been planted. Bomb has been planted.
Hello, hello, hello. Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Playtonia Conquerors Insignia. This is going to be Sir the Caster over here, and we are really sorry for the delay. We were facing some technical issue, which is why we are not able to cast the previous 9 rounds of this match, and we apologize for that. So without no further delay, let us continue with the match right now. So in our scoreboard, we have 9 with the Team Wolf and 0 with the Radioactive, and the Team Wolf are attacking the B side. They're attacking both drop and belong. So Master with a very good negative, and he is tapping on the statue guy on the city side and falling back. In the meantime, what happened over here? We can see like 4 guys from the cities are on the B side because B is continuously getting attacked by the terrorists over here. So Wolf's Master is very stubborn. He will not go back. He will try to pick the city cover. He spots someone on the hut, get a headshot, takes an off, and Bible will revenge the round and take the very first round for the city. It's 9-1 on the scoreboard. The Radioactive are the guys who just opened their score on the scoreboard. So 9-1. Good going, the Radioactive. So Team Wolf, they don't have any issue with the money in the bank, but they have a lot of money. And they are going for the fancy buys. We can see some fancy buys coming out from the terrorists, like 3 AKs, 1 non-stopper, and 1 shotgun. However, in city side, we have a full buy with 3 and 4 impers and an op, and the full resources over here. So Monster will be the one with pushing the belong with smoke and net, jumping from the belong track and killing the stone guy, pushing around, taking hut, and he does not have any idea the guy's on statue. He finds him. However, I will take the monster with op and another one great. So I will doing a fantastic job on the beast side with the op here. So it's a 1v2 situation, and Sensei, the guy on the CD, is very low with 5 HP. So in this point, I believe he should be saving the AK. Let's see what happens next. So over here, Dokla is the one who has the non-stopper with him. So he's spamming randomly on the B side. It seems that they're taking fun of the map. They're not serious at all because the map is any which way going on their favor. It's a 91 scoreboard. So Dokla will be saving the non-stopper, going back to despawn, and it's a 21 on scoreboard for the terrorists. So far, it is like very one-sided map, and Team Wolf are taking the advantage. They're dominating the city. No matter what they're trying to do, they're not able to take or add any score on their scoreboard. And these terrorists, they have shown to rush B and attack B. So every round right now, they're attacking B. So the game has little bit change over here. From the B, they're coming A, and Dokla with the non-stopper pushing mid. Fatality, going through slope. Monster taking Sensei and kill switch taking Kuma. And Rival getting out of ammo, however, with the pistol, he takes Nijo. It's a 2v2 situation, and City is looking on that. However, terrorists have captured the A, and the bomb is dropped. They don't have the C4 with them. Now it has been picked up by Dokla, the guy who has the non-stopper. Both the guys from terrorists have non-stopper. However, Dokla is very low on the HP. They're taking back to A side, and PK with the name for Griffin still getting the drop. He doesn't have any idea people are pushing A. So Dokla will take down Rival through a spam with the non-stopper and planting the bomb for the Heaven. It's a Heaven plant.
Bomb has been planted.
And spamming the connector. They are guessing the guys that the last city guy will be coming from the connector. However, PK in the heart with the Griffin M4. She's very nervous, it seems. She doesn't know where the enemy are and looking for them. Beats is the one who will be spawning him and taking him away. Or killing him from where. So it's 11-1. City's bank amount does not look very good. It's ugly. They're struggling a lot to get back into the tournament. So all they need to do is they need to at least take the rest 3 rounds over here. It should be 11-4 half for them. And on the other half, if they win the terrorist pistol round, then there is a hope for their team. Let's see what happens next. Hope for the best. So it's a B attack again from the terrorist Bible. And Bible is the one with the CG on the triangle taken by Nijo. Nijo is pushing from the triangle, taking on 2 people on terrorist city side, and Killswitch you take the Nijo monster with trade. Killswitch. And he will take down Sensei on the connector door. Through a spam to the AK he has. In the meantime, Dokla is trying to plant the bomb over here. I'm not sure what exactly he's trying to do. I think he's playing with them, playing with his teammate. They are like false firing on each other. They know that their teammate attack is on. The friendly fire, which you say. So they decide not to plant the bomb. They're just playing around at the B side, and Dokla is the one who's finally planting the bomb. Reeds will kill him and Flash himself. So Reeds will not let him plant the bomb, and he will plant the bomb. He's trying to plant the bomb on the inside the flower pot. Yeah, as we did last one with the P90, and let's see if we can win the round for their team. It's 11-1. For the people, terrorist guys on connector, they have planted the bomb to the connector itself. Reeds again attacking Monster. Monster is very angry on that. Why do you do that? And lands a headshot on the Reeds. And both of them are low. And there is no sign of CT. I think he's saving the gun. Monster takes on Reeds. It's a 1v1 situation. Monster is doing the doing things easy for the disaster. I think this is how it should be pronounced. And it's they're not playing seriously at all. They're taking they're making fun of each other. They're like killing each other and still getting the rounds. So it's like 12-1, and again Fancy Boys is coming on from the terrorist side. 1 P90, 2 negative and 2 AKs. And city sides, we have 1 P90, 3 M4s and 1 off with the full buy over here. So terrorists again decided to attack B, and Nijo is the one who is going through flames. And PK with the info Griffin holding the A-long by taking the boost. Akuma with the P90 will take down this DS, and Killswitch will take the revenge. In the meantime, Nijo has jumped from the drop, takes Killswitch, taps, sprays the hot guy that will be rival, take him down, and Reeds with his Deagle lands a beautiful one headshot on PK, and Sensei pushing to the A-long in the meantime finds Reeds. So it's a 1v situation once again, and Monster this time trying to plant the bomb on B side. Let's see if they attack and kill each other in this time. Sensei is the one who has heard an enemy coming from the backside. We'll take down Nijo. So it's 1v1 situation. Monster is hiding himself on the B-long platform. Sensei is flashing B-long and coming from the drop. Let's see if we can add one more round to their scoreboard over here. So Sensei does not have any idea what exactly Monster is. And let's see if we can at least find the bomb over here. Yes, he finds the bomb. Makes the defuse. However, Monster will be able to take a high shot on it. On Sensei. So it's 13-1. So ladies and gentlemen, we are on the very last round of the first half of the match versus Team Wolf and Radioactive. The score, I must repeat, it is 13 for the favor of Team Wolf and 1 for the favor of Radioactive. So it's supported by from the series side and a Tech 9 negative and 3 AKs from the series side. They again going to be a drop, and we see we have, it seems we have all the guys on the on B from the CTs. Akuma will take down DS, and PK will take the revenge by taking Gopal with the max 7. PK, another kill with him. Dokla will take PK. Eris is waiting with a 9% say and was able to kill him, backstab him with his Knight Gambit. So guys and girls, we have like 14-1 on the score for the first half. So let's see in the meantime how fast the match can end, or the RA5, the radioactive 5 people, if they will be able to drive the match in the favor of themselves. So let's see. We have only like 30 seconds for the team switch over here. So in the meantime, I just wanted to let you know that we have more upcoming match coming on. Even today we have more matches. So if you want to see those matches, what exactly is going on, so please be with us. Like our page on Facebook if you haven't liked it yet, and please go to YouTube channel. We have a page over there as well. We have a channel that is Playtonia channel. Please do go there and do subscribe to the channel to get the latest update of what is going on here, Conquerors Insignia. So right now we are on the freeze time of this very first round of the second half. The score is 14-1, and Reeds with a double pistol in his hand, and Douglas with a deagle. And the Terry side, they have Tech 9 and 4 Glocks. So Wolves have decided to push mid. So 3 people pushing mid. Killswitch on the other hand, the Tech 9 and trying to jump, trying to spot a guy in the drop. He doesn't know Nijo is there. Nijo will be the man who will be taking down Killswitch. So it's a 1v5 situation. Wolves are in a pack hunting for the terrorists all over the map. Now, Monster is the one who will be ending the head of TS, and it's a match point for Team Wolf. And I think it must have been the easiest match of their life in any tournament they have won. So it's 15-1. Because in this map, they had fun, they attacked each other, in some cases they even killed each other. So it's a nice interesting match coming out from the wall. So it's 15-1, Sensei with the Deagle. Trying to land some good headshots on the B long platform guy. And PK in the meantime will take down the Cola with the Tech 9. Sensei again with the Deagle. He has spotted the B-long guy and trying to take the backstab guy who will be Monster. And he's able to take that. So Diaz will take down Akuma and PK will take down Monster, and Reeds on the other hand with a negative take down Sensei. Nijo with the 5-7 will end up yes. So it's 1v2 situation, and Reeds with a man will be ending the match, winning for the Wolf with a negative by killing PK. So it's 16-1. It was not that bad match, not a good match. However, it ended so quickly. So, guys and girls, for this time, this is Nubidra signing off from the casting bar of Playtonia Conquerors Insignia. This was the match versus Wolf and Radioactive. Wolf have won the match, cleansed the match by 16-1 on the scoreboard. So, thank you very much for being with us. Have a great day and take care of yourself. Ta-da.
Bye.